with black ones. There's no sacrifice in comfort with the additional performance, though things inside have taken a bit more of a business-first approach with less luxury than we've seen in some recent 911s. The usual amounts of Alcantara trim are scattered about, and Porsche actually took out some sound deadening so you can hear the sport exhaust system a little more clearly. Government fuel economy ratings are 18 city, 26 highway, and 21 combined. Our average was on the low end at 18.4 miles per gallon of premium. That's only slightly below average for the energy impact score, burning 15.7 barrels of oil yearly while emitting 6.9 tons of CO2. GTS pricing is about $15K over a Carrera S, putting it at $120,050 to start. Perhaps no one straddles the tradition continued refinement fence better than Porsche. This 2017 911 Carrera GTS, with its additional performance delivered with old-style feel, encapsulates that ethos fully. Sure, there are faster Porsches and of course cheaper ones as well, but you could make an argument that the GTS is the best overall 911 package, and you'd get no argument from us. Well, that's our show. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, for more Motor Week, including daily news, updates, podcasts, and even complete episodes, cruise on over to pbs.org/motorweek. And I hope you'll join us next time when we put the latest compact SUVs to the test. And it's a Chevrolet Camaro ZL1, but with a Callaway touch. Till then, I'm John Davis. We'll see you right here on Motor Week.
To learn more about Motor Week, television's original automotive magazine, visit pbs.org/motorweek. This program was produced by Maryland Public Television, which is solely responsible for its content.
Traditionally, all the corporations that I had worked for were all produced overseas. I wanted to do something different. I recognized that there was an opportunity producing locally because I would know my manufacturer. I could see my manufacturer at any point in time during the day and still have enough time to get back for lunch. So Makers Row is the place that you go to when you're trying to get something manufactured. We connect brands, entrepreneurs, with some of the best manufacturers in the United States. So whatever your idea is, you'd be able to come on to Makers Row and actually develop your product all in one place.
I graduated college with a sociology degree and always, had the goal of becoming an entrepreneur. And Matthew was actually one of the first entrepreneurs that I met that was under 30. And then really was inspired by his work and the communities that he was supporting through his small business and how they were all supporting one another. So I ended up quitting my job to work with him full-time and started to build a business with him. My parents very much grew up poor, and so I'm always focused on helping the working class, helping the poor be able to have a more comfortable lifestyle. It's very much what I do every single day, of helping small businesses achieve their goals, helping entrepreneurs make their ideas come to life.
So you get started with Makers Row just by having an idea for a product. That's all it takes, the interest to want to manufacture something. And everybody has an idea. Everybody knows something that they would change. Like, I have to go to the store and this isn't really suit me and all my friends are complaining about this. That's where that hunger usually comes from for entrepreneurs. And once you have that fire in your belly, that's when you can come to Makers Row. And we'll show you how products get manufactured, and then we'll put you on the right path to you producing products as well.
One of the biggest things about Matthew is that he's family-oriented, very empathetic, caring. The other big part of him is that he's a designer, he's an artist. and he's a creative, and he sees the world through different lenses than I do.
One of the things that helps me wake up every morning is doing better, being better, getting better, reaching the people. It's like my mother is usually someone that is going to send me a couple of text messages and inspirational text messages in the morning. She's kind of the best mom in the world. We both enjoy cooking a lot, but I think that the magic about it is that we're bringing our backgrounds to the table. So I'm soul food all the way, you know? I love soul food. And Tanya is the spice queen, you know? She'll throw a little something in there, make it work. So I love that.
I love buying products with a story where I know the entrepreneur behind it, and I know that there's a passion and a mission behind the product. So that's something that I go out of my way to look for.
I have to say that one of the things that I want for myself is to be an inspiration. I want to make you feel empowered, that you can make something happen that you never thought that you could.
Hi, I'm Rob Stewart. Coming up, we'll take you across the U.S. and head overseas to see how American farmers and ranchers make a critical connection to consumers and reach out to communities at home and abroad. We'll take you to Africa, where a New Mexico rancher shares his expertise in raising better crops to stave off hunger. Some city folks in Boston take to the farm fields of New England, delivering food to the region's needy. And our Sharon Batman shows you how to dress up the simple sweet potato and make it into a main dish meal. And urban residents in one California community support local growers with an expanding farm-to-fork movement. It's all coming up on America's Heartland.
You can see it in the eyes of every woman and man in America's heartland, living close to the land. There's a love for the country and a pride in the brand. In America's heartland, living close to the land.
Whether it's a natural disaster or a call to help in any number of emergencies, America's farmers and ranchers have long stepped up to provide food and other aid to communities in need. Tough economic times have accelerated those needs, and all across the country, partnership programs have sprung up between rural communities and urban residents to help deal with food shortages. We've shared a number of these stories with you on America's Heartland. Farmers Feed Florida is a good example. Local farmers, like Hank Scott, welcome volunteers who show up to sweep through their fields, collecting produce that might otherwise go to waste.
You know, you hate to see a crop that you work so hard to grow go to waste. I mean, you're growing it to feed people. You want it to feed people. If you can get the stuff that's not marketable in the hands, in the right hands, where it can help people that are in need, that's the greatest thing in the world, greatest feeling in the world.
Trucked back to the Second Harvest Food Distribution Center, Boy Scouts and others will package the produce, making it possible for food closets and Florida hunger centers to share fresh food with those in need. But hunger is a real concern, not just in the United States, but in many places around the world. And there, as here at home, you'll often find America's farmers and ranchers providing assistance. Scott Stovall has been working this cattle ranch for more than 2 decades.
We're in windy central New Mexico, and the nearest towns are Anton, Chico, Las Vegas, and Santa Rosa. When I was young, I wanted a career that was outdoors. I wanted to stay in the Southwest, and I wanted something that was active. And during that period of time, I met a lot of ranchers, and I just completely liked the lifestyle of these ranchers. And I think I was in my early 20s, and from then on, my goal was set.
His ranch is home to large herds of cattle, roaming on thousands of acres of open grassland, a ranch he established with lots of hard work and sweat. Scott Stovall has learned a lot on this land, so much he was ready to share his knowledge with others.
When I got to a point where I felt like I had everything paid off here at the ranch, I wanted to give back, and agriculture has been good to me, and I wanted also to give back to it. I volunteered locally for some organizations here, and somebody approached me about the Farmer to Farmer program.
This is the Farmer to Farmer program, in action in Africa, where Scott shared his firsthand knowledge of agriculture with farmers who could benefit from his information and experience. It's a program funded by the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, and implemented through CNFA, an international development organization based in Washington, D.C. The program provides life-saving knowledge and expertise delivered by volunteer American farmers, sharing their skills with farmers and agricultural businesses in developing countries. Scott's contributions have taken him to a number of spots around the globe.
I've been in Eastern Europe, Ukraine, Azerbaijan, Georgia, and then in Africa, Kenya, Mozambique, Malawi, Angola, Uganda, Mali, a lot of countries in Africa.
This farming and greenhouse operation in Kenya is a host organization being helped by the Farmer to Farmer program. It's one of many in Africa. Ngila Kamotho directs Kenya Dryland Seeds Limited. His group has benefited from their interaction with farmers like Scott.
I'd read so much about American entrepreneurship, and to me it appeared like the most successful in the world. So I wanted to get an exposure from the best in the world, and that is why I talked to USAID Farmer to Farmer.
The work being done in the Farmer to Farmer program exposes those in regions around the world to agricultural information that can help farmers become self-reliant, improve food security, and generate income. It can also provide needed expertise in other areas important to farming success.
We requested for a volunteer, and Scott Stovall wrote the first business plan for us, and we successfully applied for funding from the Africa Seed Investment Fund.
It's not just planting techniques that are shared. Everything from production to harvest is handled here. These kernels of corn can save the lives of people struggling for their very next meal.
And as a result, you know, it's opened my eyes on many, many different levels. Wow. And they facilitate the whole project. All you do is volunteer your time.
But the lessons don't end on the land. Scott Stovall says that what he experienced in Africa has changed his life too. Knowing that he's helped plant seeds of change for generations to come has given him a new passion and purpose.
It's something that's truly changed my life. It's opened my eyes professionally, culturally, and personally. Knowing that there's different ways in agriculture just other than the way I know. There's other cultures different than the culture I'm used to. And personally, the will of the human spirit. I can feel the same challenges that they're dealing with that I deal with. Once again, I know they have a whole other set of challenges, but still it's agriculture, growing something from the ground or raising a livestock for food. And their goal is the same as mine, both to support their families and also to help their communities and help feed the people of the world.
Farming and ranching have deep roots in New Mexico. Early inhabitants were growing corn, squash, and beans more than 2,000 years ago. New Mexico is one of the top 3 pecan-producing states in the nation. And here's a spicy fact. New Mexico State University leads the nation in chili pepper research.
The food connection between farming communities and urban areas has grown much stronger in recent years. The dramatic growth of farmers markets is just one example. In addition, many supermarkets offer produce, even meats, provided by farms and ranches in their area. On a bigger scale, a number of communities have begun what they call farm-to-table programs. Sacramento, California has declared itself America's farm-to-fork capital, giving urban residents the chance to learn more about just where their food is coming from. When it comes to American agriculture, California is keen. And if it's California grown, it's being picked, plated, and praised at this Sacramento celebration.
Appreciate it.
What are you seeing and what are you hearing from the farmers that actually grow this?
They're very excited to let people know about their produce and let them know that they're here and they're not going anywhere. And I think that's really important right now.
Why?
It's creating more jobs. It's creating great food and produce.
Sacramento is the capital of the nation's most productive agricultural state, with some 70% of the surrounding region providing agricultural, forest land, or open space. There's plenty of room for a wide variety of farm products. Add to that scores of boutique farms and more than 50 regional farmers markets, and you have a close connection between producers and consumers.
Well, we're harvesting right now. This is the best time in the vineyard.
Celebrating that ag connection, residents and city officials have staged a number of events, including this one, turning Sacramento's iconic Tower Bridge into a one-of-a-kind farm-to-fork dinner. Back to that dining in a moment, but first it has to come from the fields. Fred, did you grow these?
Yes, sir. These are Pink Lady variety. Yeah.
When did you pick them?
These were picked yesterday.
Yesterday? My goodness, that's fresh.
Yes.
Yolo County peach and apple farmer Fred Manis is sharing the fruits of his labor with thousands of people. Among them, the mayor of West Sacramento, Christopher Cabaldi.
And we're right in one of the coolest places, all the eating and the sautéing and the enjoying and the drinking, but right in the richest agricultural valley, maybe in the whole world, along with some of the most creative people.
Thousands of people filled the Tower Bridge and Sacramento's Capitol Mall for one of the region's culinary celebrations.
Everyone who worked was excited because the people were asking, where did this come from? How does it grow? When is the season? Is this local? All these questions that we never expected to get that now have become part of our general conversation.
I feel like I won the lottery being here tonight. There was just so many seats available on this Tower Bridge dinner, and it sold out within 6 hours of being announced. So it's clearly hit a spot that people wanted to come and take advantage of this exciting opportunity. I gotta say that the more variety, the types of foods that you just can't find anywhere else. But Sacramento and California is just, you know, like the epicenter of agriculture, and so I get excited when I get an opportunity to try new things.
Connecting consumers to their food and having them try those new things has prompted similar farm-to-fork events across the country. Events that raise the profile of farmers and ranchers, and events that celebrate the regional products that make our agricultural communities special.
What we're doing is celebrating what Sacramento is, what Sacramento's bounty is, and what Sacramento has to offer, not just our community, because we already know who we are and what we are, but to tell everybody else that we are the farm-to-fork capital of America.
What does it mean to you to have such access to agriculture and the people that provide it right in your own backyard?
Well, it means a lot because you can really pay attention to what you're eating, and that's a huge deal in today's world. You can only label so much. Knowing the actual farmer, going to the farm, seeing the produce, seeing the pig, whatever it is, allows you to eat a lot healthier, a better sense of connection of what it is that you're eating, where it comes from. And for the farmer, it's huge. That's who we are. That's what we do great. That's what we're known around the world for. Let's celebrate it.
Many Eat Local efforts started with state and federal programs that encouraged school districts to buy from local farms and ranches. From just a handful of programs in the late 90s, farm-to-school efforts now touch more than 10,000 schools in all 50 states.
Let's make a little farm-to-table connection of our own right now. Our Sharon Vaknin is in the kitchen this week with a recipe that dresses up the simple sweet potato and folds it into a very hearty main dish that might fit the bill for your next dinner party.
Today we're making sweet potato and beef stew with a little surprise. I'll show you that later. The first thing we need to do is prepare our sweet potatoes. So the skin of a sweet potato is edible, but for this dish, since we're going to be stewing it, the skin will come off during the cooking process. Now, when you're shopping for sweet potatoes, there are two things you want to look for. First, you want to make sure there isn't a lot of bruising or breakage on the flesh. But most importantly, you need to check to see if the flesh is firm. Normally, it will be softer towards the end of the root. That's how you know you have a fresh sweet potato. So for our stew, I want to cube these sweet potatoes. So we'll slice them lengthwise and then just cut them like that. And then we'll just cube them. Perfect size for our stew. Our sweet potatoes are done, and now it's time to prep the rest of our vegetables. I've got 1 red pepper, and for these, we don't want to cut them too small, just nice squares like that. So the next thing we're going to put in here is a carrot. Then, of course, an onion, garlic. I like a lot of garlic in my stews. Now the next main ingredient for our dish is our beef. After all, it's a sweet potato and beef stew. So here I have about 1.5 pounds of stew meat. So what I want to do here is to just trim off some of the fat, keep this healthy, and cut it into smaller pieces, just like that. All right, our beef is in nice bite-sized pieces. And the last thing we need to do to them is sprinkle them with a little flour. So not only will this help the browning process, but it'll also thicken up our stew. And then just give it a nice toss. Perfect. Our ingredients are ready, and now it's time to brown the beef and get our stew going. Now the first thing we need to do is brown our beef. It gives it a nice color and it locks in all of those yummy juices. So we'll add a little bit of olive oil to our pan and throw in our beef. We're just looking for a nice dark brown golden color. And when it reaches that point, that beef will just lift up off of the pan. All right, our beef looks ready. We don't have to worry about them being cooked all the way through now at this point. We just want to get a nice color on them. And these guys look good. Now in the same pan, without cleaning anything up, we'll add a little bit more olive oil and get our onions going. Now that our onions have softened, we'll add our carrots and the garlic. And now it's time to add our spices. So here I've got turmeric, cumin, paprika, a little bit of cayenne pepper for a kick, and a little bit of cinnamon. So sprinkle them right on top. Now I did say that this stew has a little surprise. We're adding beer. And the beer will help us deglaze the pan, but it'll also add a nice flavor. So here I've got a Belgian ale. I've got Stella Artois. It's not too strong. We're not making beer stew. We just wanted to add a nice little kick. Now back in goes our beef, juices and all. We don't want to miss out on any of that. Plus 4 cups of beef stock. Finally, of course, we've got our red bell peppers and the star, our sweet potato. Now a few more flavorings and we'll be ready to let this stew. I've got fresh thyme and 2 bay leaves. Now I'm putting them in whole, but we'll take them out before we serve this dish. And I almost forgot, Worcestershire sauce. This will add a nice amount of sweetness and tang. And season it with a little pepper. So we'll let this stew for about 45 minutes to an hour until that beef has softened, the color of the stew has deepened, and the liquid has reduced. So I'm not going to put a lid on it. I want some of that liquid to come down. Our stew simmered for about an hour, and that liquid reduced. The beef is soft and tender, and so are those sweet potatoes. So the way I'm serving it here is over a few spoonfuls of couscous. You can also use pasta or pearl couscous. Just soak up all that flavor, and to finish it off, some cilantro. How good does that look? And now, of course, there's only one thing left to do. Give it a try. That's amazing. You've got the sweetness of our star ingredient, the savory of the beef, and of course all of those spices that we put in there in the very beginning. This is going to be a hit.
"150 years ago, a good portion of America's population grew their own food. Even with community gardens, that's become more difficult these days, and hunger programs often have trouble providing fresh produce to those they serve. Well, just like the Florida program we showed you earlier, a dedicated group in Boston is working hard to meet the food needs of those in their community.
These orange and yellow peppers are premium. They're just so beautiful.
I know what a pepper is, but as far as some of the more interesting vegetables go, I didn't know that much until I started doing this.
Still a good pepper if they use it fairly quick.
Usually pretty good quality stuff. Some of it doesn't have to be perfect.
He said, just come down the row, pick the orange peppers, but don't get the ones that look like they're past their prime. So, you know, we're looking for perfect peppers.
Okay, thanks everybody for coming today. We're going to go out to Dick's Market Garden in Lunenburg. Farmers contact us, and then we have to react. And we may have less than 24 hours, we may have 48 hours. In between that time, there's weather to consider, other conditions, and so it's getting the volunteers, it's having the mass of volunteers that I can draw from to get the numbers I need on very short notice. Maybe they want to plow in 2 days, or maybe the product is just going to have bolted and not be good in that amount of time. So I ask the volunteers to pick what they would like. We don't want to take to pantries marginal product. We're picking items that you would see at the farmer's market. It's just surplus is what it is. We're going to be out here today for probably about 3 hours, and we're going to get 5 different items. Estimates are 40 to 50% of what is produced in the U.S. actually goes to waste. If that's the level of what the waste is, you know, we're not going to be able to keep going like that. We've got to recover some of that on the end before it goes into the waste stream. So that's what we're doing. Perfectly good product going to go to people who need it.
For me personally, I think it's important just to get outside. I spend so much time inside at school and doing